conservation, we think there's room that we wouldn't have to do this more expensive alternative supplies, but we can stretch the fresh groundwater further.
Let me sort of follow up on that. You talked about the storage. I know that the city I live in did actually above ground storage, actually having kind of what we would call a reservoir, pumping water out to where the storage container was and bringing it back in in times of drought. What about below ground storage? Have you taken a look at that?
We have, it's identified in the plan. It's St. John's, it's being done in St. John's right now. It's called aquifer storage and recovery. Good news about that is that you don't lose, Mike talked about that 50 inches of evaporation. Once you put down there, you basically get out. So we are looking at that. It's a great way to do it. And I have to say from the water supplier aspect, the storage component is so important because when you need the water, we don't have a water problem. We have a problem during 3, 4, 5, 6 months out of the year. So that's what the storage can do for you in the water supply business. And we are looking very seriously about aquifer storage and recovery. It's a great mechanism to store water during wet flows, put it in the aquifer and take it out when you need it.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it very much. Next up will be Alan Euler on the South Lake Water Initiative. Mr. Euler is a consultant with the St. John's. Mr. Euler, you're very nice. Thank you, sir. Yes, we are. We just had a request from Senator Hayes, and I think it's a great one that if we could have the presentations emailed to us, we'd appreciate it. The Central Florida Water Initiative as well as the one that you have here. And Mr. Perry's example would be good.
Would you like those emailed to your office so they can be distributed to the other members?
Just go straight to the members directly. Their emails are available on the website. So if you need any help, just call me.
The only cautionary note that I'd say is depending on the level of graphics that are in some of these, they may be stopped by your email providers. For example, mine is over 2 megs. So there are some email providers that don't allow files of that size. So we can certainly bring them to your office for downloading.
Okay, well, that's a good suggestion. Thank you. Just you can mail them or whatever, that'd be great. We'll do it. We're sure that you can figure it out, and if you can, we'll sure that we can provide you with guidance. We will get you guidance. Okay, Mr. Euler, you're recognized for your presentation, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And my presentation kind of dovetails with the 2 prior conversations that you've had here regarding water supplies. Mine, however, focuses on the regional initiative here in South Lake County. As the chairman mentioned, I'm a consultant working for the St. John's. They hired me specifically to assist the smaller communities in South Lake County in trying to identify and obtain alternative water supplies as part of the Central Florida Water Initiative. Well, Lake County has some unique challenges, which I'll talk about here in a few moments. But the vehicle that we're using to bring these South Lake communities together is a group called the South Lake Regional Water Initiative. And Chairman, if I might, I'd like to recognize the chair of that group and the vice chair who are here in the audience. That would be Commissioner Parks with Lake County as the chairman of that organization. And Mayor Laux with the City of Groveland is the vice chair.
You're here. Oh, Mayor, how you doing, sir? Did not see you either, but thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Commissioner Parks, we did recognize earlier. We'll be glad to hear from him in a short while. Yes, sir.
The 2 gentlemen have been instrumental in bringing the member communities together. On the screen are the member communities, the cities of Claremont, Groveland, Mascot, Mineola, the town of Montverde. We also received support from the Lake County Water Authority and South Lake Chamber of Commerce, and Lake County, of course, is assisting that effort as well as a result of the involvement of Commissioner Parks. So we've been meeting for about 2 years. The focus of the group is primarily to look for those alternative water supplies. Now, presenters have 15 minutes to give their information, and so they've gone through and made some very important points that may have been blown by because of the speed of the presentation. So I wanted to go back and recap one particular point that becomes critical for us. The sustainable level of the aquifer is around 850 million gallons per day of withdrawal. And that is kind of the benchmark that the district is using to limit the amounts of water that can be withdrawn from the current source of Fort Mac. With a future demand of 1.1 billion gallons, that means that we need to find 250 million gallons per day of alternative water sources. Now, there are many projects that can do that, but that's a big number if you're thinking about. 250 million gallons a day have to come from alternative water sources. A lot of people don't know what alternative water sources are, so I'll give you the quick definition. The traditional source here is the Florida aquifer. An alternative source is just about anything else. It could be surface water from a lake or a river. It could be reclaimed water from a wastewater treatment facility, captured stormwater placed in a reservoir and reused for irrigation. It could be brackish groundwater from the lower Florida. It could be salt water from the ocean. All of those represent alternative water sources that traditionally have not been used as a water source in Florida because the aquifer is surface quite well and has quite good water quality. With regard to alternative water sources available to South Lake, a little bit different issue. We're poorly situated to take advantage of many of the alternative water sources that are available. We do not have any large bodies of water that we could take fresh water from for drinking water. We do not have any major rivers like the St. John's that runs conveniently close to our areas to be able to use that as a source. We are in a poor area for using traditional methods for treating brackish groundwater. Brackish water is treated with a process, I'm sure you're familiar with, reverse osmosis or membrane treatment. Well, if you put a gallon of water in a reverse osmosis system, you may get out 7/10 of a gallon of actual clean water to use, and 3/10 of a gallon are then rejected as a concentrated brine. Most of the time when you're using that technology, you're somewhere close to the coast, so that brine can go back out into the ocean, blend with the water there, and essentially disappear through dilution. We're not conveniently close to the ocean. We don't have a good place for brackish water to go after it's been through that process. So that makes that source somewhat difficult for us here in the middle of the state. Now, reclaimed water is definitely an alternative water source we can take advantage of, and the communities in South Lake are indeed doing that. The problem is we will always be short on reclaimed water, here for two reasons. First, the nature of the soils in South Lake are such that it's very well drained. You put water on it, it's going down. Second, it takes 3 houses of wastewater to make up 1 house worth of irrigation. In fact, Senator, I'll go back to the question that you had with Tom with regards to projections of demand and using those going forward. One of the facts that we need to keep in mind is that about 50% of the water that we consume, primarily as residential customers, is used for irrigation, not for our own consumption. So we are in essence competing with our landscaping for water supplies. So that may be an area that we can pay closer attention to and modify some of our development standards to cover some of that water that's currently used for irrigation. Based on our evaluation of the available water supplies, we're coming to the conclusion that it may be necessary for South Lake County to import water from other areas to meet their future demands. We've identified several possible sources for that alternative water. The first one is the Water Concert 2 project. That's a reclaimed water utilization project that's run by the City of Orlando and Orange County. They're using reclaimed water to provide irrigation water to several thousand acres of orange groves in West Orange and East Lake counties, they also use their water for aquifer recharge through a series of rapid infiltration basins. Their western limit is just south of the city of Claremont, so they're conveniently close to be considered a potential source. I can tell you at this point that I've had several discussions and negotiations with them with regard to obtaining reclaimed water for South Lake County, and thus far, because of their own concerns for providing water to their own customers, they are reluctant to make any long-term commitments to provide that reclaimed water as an alternative water source for us in South Lake. The next source, Tom very briefly touched on in his presentation, was a project called Project Renew. As part of the City of Orlando's water conveyance system, they have a utility entity called the Orlando Utilities Commission that is the water provider for the City of Orlando. In their last consumptive use permit, they had a requirement to mitigate some impacts that were projected to occur as a result of their withdrawals from the aquifer. And that mitigation project was to bring somewhere around 9 million gallons up towards the city of Apopka to mitigate the impacts in that area. Apopka has done a fantastic job of corralling other alternative water supplies. That water may be available to us if OUC's consumptive use permit conditions can be changed and they can be convinced to turn that into a viable project to bring water to South Lake County. About 9 million gallons could be available to us. Next closest location is the Water Cooperative of Central Florida. That's several utilities that include the Toho Water Authority, which is down in Osceola County, Polk County Utilities, Orange County Utilities, Reedy Creek, St. Cloud. They have pooled their resources and would be willing to, on a short-term basis, provide a small amount of reclaimed water. As of this point in time, they have not indicated that they have potable water, drinking water, available to us for our use. The two areas where we might be able to get potable quality water would be from the Yankee Lake project, which is at State Road 46 and I-4, not conveniently close. The other one would be Taylor Creek, which is past the Orlando International Airport, headed down the B line, almost towards Cocoa. To put that in perspective as far as distances to these various alternative water sources, Concert 1 is about a mile southeast of Claremont. It would be the ideal source if we had a means of capturing that water. In order for us to do that, there has to be a benefit to the City of Orlando and Orange County. Otherwise, they will not release those sources of water. Second closest would be the Project Renew project. That would be diverting water from the City of Orlando's east side system over to its west treatment facility, providing reclaimed water from that diverted water, sending it through the existing Concert 2 system to us. It's about a 9-mile transfer to get to that point. Next closest would be the water co-op down in Osceola County. Close is kind of a relative term. That's 19 miles. A factor to keep in mind when you look at distance, the size of the pipelines that we would need to transmit the water that we would need is about $2 million a mile. So at 19 miles, there's $38 million before we get the first drop of water. Now let's go to the next source where we think we can get water, Yankee Lake. It's about 41 miles. And then the last source that we're examining is Taylor Creek, 50 miles. Let's multiply that times 2. I can do easy math, right? $100 million for a transmission main before you get the first drop of water. So, where are we here in South Lake? That's kind of a grim picture, huh? Things may not be quite so grim. There is another source of alternative water that we may be able to explore, which is the lower Floridan aquifer. What gives me some hope that that may be beneficial for us is a new treatment technology that we are hopefully going to have demonstrated sometime in the next 2 or 3 months. I've been speaking with the manufacturer. It's a brackish water treatment system that does not produce a concentrated side stream. 100% of the water that comes in comes out as treated water. And if that's the case, That may open up some of the brackish water lower Florida sources in South Lake County that could be used for our drinking water and provide a significant part of the solution to the problem. Now the vehicle, as I said, we're using to bring these 5 communities together is the Regional Water Initiative. Just yesterday, we had a meeting with that group, and Commissioner Parks and Mayor Laux were instrumental in getting all 5 communities to agree to enter into a cooperative agreement, an interlocal, where they would collectively fund a study that would help to identify the alternative water sources and then identify projects that could be cooperatively funded between those 5 entities to bring water to their respective areas. We're also looking at ways that those systems could be interconnected, both their drinking water systems, their sewer systems, and their reclaimed water systems, to be able to maximize the use of local resources. Because as you've seen from the presentation, the other sources are significantly far away and would represent, in my mind, an unfair burden on the local customer to have to develop those faraway sources for the use here, if we've got resources close at hand that may be able to be used. So with that, Commissioner, sorry, I'm used to working with the City Commission. Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions, members? Senator Dupuy?
Real quick, I very interesting presentation. I really enjoyed it. You talked about developing the resources to produce this reclaimed water and then the transmission in terms of maybe getting it near to Lake County. But then what about the distribution in terms of once you get it to Lake County? For instance, if you have rules which some water management districts do and some locals do, that if you develop a new subdivision, you have to have reclaimed water available to the area, and that's limited, usually to 3 to 1. So how do you not distribute it to a county that doesn't have that infrastructure in place unless you're talking about newer development? I'm not sure that's what you're talking about, but would you clarify?
Absolutely, and that's an excellent question. The communities that we have, 2 of them have fairly well-developed reclaimed water systems. City of Claremont and City of Groveland both are working on having the newer developments provide reclaimed water systems as part of their infrastructure. I don't believe the town of Montverde has any. I'm not sure about Mascot. Mineola is in the process of making sure that all of their newer developments do indeed have reclaimed water available. The issue here is not so much the distribution as it is the quantity of source available. I think we'll find that we'll have enough distribution to get out every drop of reclaimed water we can develop and use, and may in fact even have to supplement some of that reclaimed water during the dry parts of the year, because the demand for irrigation during March, April, and May is about twice what it is during the other parts of the year. And unfortunately, the reclaimed water levels start to fall off. Just 2 seconds of my background. I used to be the public works director for the city of Orlando and ran their wastewater system for 28 years. One of the problems that you see with reclaimed water is you have no control over your source. It's who's flushing the toilet gives you the water. So if you have a drought and there's not much rainfall, rainfall actually causes leakage in your system. And you actually get benefit with a little leakage in your system hydraulically. You get a little bit more water at the plant. During the dry time when people need irrigation water, there's no excess water coming in. So you're at your lowest reclaimed water point and your highest demand. Typically what people have done to not overbook or oversubscribe their reclaimed water is they only will sell 50% because you need 100% of that amount during the dry period. That's where supplemental water comes in handy. You can stretch that reclaimed water out further if for 3 months in the year perhaps you're using captured stormwater to supplement, or you have a groundwater well, limited use, it's only used to stretch that reclaimed water out. So to finish answering the question, sorry to diverge a little bit, but I thought that was information that you might need. The older communities do not have well-established irrigation systems. That's not where most of the irrigation use is going to be problematic. It's the newer quarter-acre lot, nice home subdivision rules on landscaping that's going to take more of that reclaimed water, and those are the exact areas where reclaimed water pipelines are going in. As far as distributing potable water, the distribution systems are in place. What we would focus on are the interconnects that would allow the water to come into a central location and then be wheeled out to the other users.
Okay. Anyone else? Question? Okay.
Thank you. You were mentioning the partnership that they've just formed with the 5 counties to do a study. What will that study cost and when will it be done?
We're estimating that that study will cost about $300,000, which for some of the smaller partner communities is quite a large investment. Because we are mid-budget year, they are planning on budgeting the money for fiscal year 2015. We will put out a request for proposals to hire a consultant to assist us in this effort, probably in October of this year, with the hopes of bringing them on board by January of 2015 and proceeding. That way, we have assurance that the money has been budgeted by the member communities, hence the October start date will have been budgeted and approved at that point. It's really going to depend on how, I hate to say the dominoes fall, but as we're exploring alternative water sources, we may be able to very quickly eliminate some of those sources and focus our efforts on the primary source that looks promising. In that circumstance, I think we could have an answer within 9 months. If, however, it's protracted because nothing looks really promising, and we have to start now looking at the further away sources, it could be as much as a year to 14 months to be able to come up with a good suggestion for an answer.
Okay, Mr. Olber, thank you very much. And I want to also mention something else that you touched on at the very beginning, and that is we have a business partner in this endeavor with the South Lake Chamber of Commerce. And I think that's a very important point to note. It's not this government trying to find a solution, but it's government joining the business to do that. We have some representatives of the chamber here. Ray Sanfratello, the president of the South Lake Chamber, is he here? Would you stand up and be recognized, Mr. Frank? Yeah, thank you very much for your leadership on that. And I'd like to get interest here from the United Southern Bank and use of the Chamber Alliance here in Lake County. He's been instrumental in this as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. Commissioner Parks, would you like to come forward as the leader of the initiative, and Mayor Lewis as well? And
would you like us to go now or when we're on the agenda?
okay. If it's still on the South Lake Water Initiative, if you'd like to address that now, since you're on that right now, and we'll have you come back for the county issues later. Thank you for your leadership on this, gentlemen. Both of you have done a great job bringing together the stakeholders to produce the effort that we now see before us. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, and good evening, honorable members of our delegation. Appreciate your time tonight, and all the residents that are out there too. I wanted to wish you a good evening. I'm not going to try to not do too much talk. I want to thank a few people because I believe in teamwork, and this has been a great effort. And I think Alan did a great job on the presentation. But I do want to thank you, Representative Metz, for your leadership. The fact that we're having a special meeting on water says a lot. Me being out there, and I know Mayor Laux will attest to this as well. You know, we hear that issue a lot, that water is extremely, extremely important. And it has a lot to do with not just because it's precious for life, but for economic development. And that is, in fact, why you have the Chamber being involved and has recognized it as a very important issue. Because, quite frankly, people come to South Lake in particular, all of Lake County, but South Lake because of the beautiful lakes, the water resources, and they're very concerned about that right now. And on the business side of things, we are there concerned about the day that water will no longer be a predictable, reliable, affordable source, and that could definitely affect business. So it definitely goes hand in hand. I do want to thank Commissioner Campion is here tonight. I know it's very important to her as well. Chairman Connor could not be here tonight. He's off doing other business. I know it's an important issue to him as well. And I'd also like to thank Mayor Laux and again the Chamber of Commerce as well. They've been right with us most of the way in all the cities. At the risk of sounding a little bit like I'm whining a little bit, I'm really going to bat for South Lake, obviously, Lake County as a whole. But if you want to put one number in perspective, and that is from Orange County, the withdrawals are roughly 210 million gallons per day. If you add up all the cities of South Lake, you have 29 million gallons per day. So it's very out of proportion. Alternative water supply planning, and they've got a lot of people, more people, we know that of course, but when you're planning for, my point is, when you're planning for an alternative water supply project, the cost of that can be spread out a lot less burden to the residents of Orange County than it can be to Lake County and South Lake in particular. And $50,000 a piece for the 5 cities in the county, adding up to $300,000 approximately. There's a lot more money for Groveland and Mascot and even Claremont and Lake County as well. So the point is that we need your help. And the specific ask for me, and I'm going to yield the rest of my time with Mayor Laux, if it's okay, is the specific ask is this, and that is that you will endorse the House Water Project application. We'll complete it ourselves or with you, the staff, if we have to. We have all the information. We've gone through the application. It's all information that we've been working on over the last 2 years. It's the South Lake Regional Water Initiative. So the ask is, could you please endorse that? It's very important. It will help. If it's a cost share, we'll take whatever help we can get. We are prepared to kind of go it alone because we have to. We have to do this at this point. It's from a matter of protecting business and the quality of life in Lake County. We're going to do it anyway. We're going forward with that leadership, but we need your help. So we'd be obviously very thankful to have that. So that's the ask, and I'll just go ahead and turn it back over to the Mayor Laux. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Representative Metz, Representative Toole, Senator Hayes, Senator Purple. Senator Purple, I wanted to briefly touch on the distribution question that you'd asked Mr. Euler. The City of Claremont and the City of Groveland have invested quite heavily in cooperation with St. John's River Water Management with some cost share money that brings us enough to grant us to put a lot of our main distribution systems in place. We do require all of our new subdivisions currently to be outfitted with a dual line system or reclaim systems. One of the problems of getting water to the subdivisions, we discovered we had a lot of subdivisions that had reclaimed water and or reclaimed lines in them, but they didn't have any distribution systems to them. So we as the City of Groveland, invested about $2 million in our distribution system and hope to complete that by the end of next year. Claremont is probably twice that much on investment in that. So our distributions in those 2 cities are quite significant. Due to the geographical location of the 5 cities, by interconnecting these, it's going to allow us not only to utilize the reclaimed water generated from the 5 or 6 wastewater plants that we have, but if we couple that with the alternative water source, the very first thing that's going to happen is we're going to decrease the groundwater withdrawals tremendously. And then we open the valve, we'll decrease that on that level. I do think that is substantially going to decrease our groundwater with pumping. By decreasing groundwater pumping, we're also going to help stabilize our lake levels. One thing that we look at in South Lake, of course, is, as we all do, is our tax rates, our millage rates. But another thing we look at is our utility rates. If we're able to create a sustainable and affordable water source, it will certainly ensure the economic development for the rest of South Lake County. We're looking at a large secondary plant going down 27. We're going to need to provide water for that. The design and the plan on that, of course, is conservation coupled with the high use of reclaimed water. Again, the first step in this entire process is this particular modeling on a sub-regional basis to show Orange County by setting or releasing the construct of water to us will also benefit them. We're at a much higher elevation. As we all know, without saying, water flows downhill. The Upper Floridian Aquifer follows the contour of the land. South Lake County is at a higher elevation than a lot of Orange County. We also have the highest recharge rate in the state of Florida. We are part of the Florida aquifer recharge area. By putting as much reclaim through rapid infiltration bases in our area, it's not only going to benefit the lakes in South Lake, it's also going to benefit the lake levels in West Orange County. And Commissioner Parks has already said it is a struggle putting in these distribution systems, which they will do correctly, or will do it now. But funding this study is the very first step in a long-term solution to South Lake's problems. I feel quite certain that by being proactive as we are now, and I probably am rare to say this, but the crash of the housing market actually was a blessing to South Lake County, allowed us to step back and take a look at what we were doing before we built and realized we didn't have the water supply our customers. So our housing has picked up, all our developments picked up, and we're going to move forward just as fast as we can. Now the market's good, but we need to make sure we have the sustainable and affordable water source to do so. And as Commissioner Parks said, we are asking for your help in funding and whatever we need to do in order to achieve that. We're more happy to cooperate and operate with the information that we have.
Thank you, Mayor Lance. And they put a lot of time and effort into this and leadership as well with Mr. Parks, and we appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, members, we're going to shift now to Roman numeral 6 on the agenda, local entity roles and responsibilities. And just want to mention that we're going to try to hear from each of the agencies for no more than 15 minutes, but they don't have to take all that time if they don't need to. Because we had we had some written submissions from them, and that really helped out a lot. But the notebooks that you have in front of you, all of it is put them all in the book there. So a lot of the questions we might have had were answered in writing already. But we'd like them to come up and just take a few minutes to give us the highlights of their agency, what their mission is, what their goals and objectives are, what their challenges are, what they need from us, if anything. Sort of give us an overview, if you will, and allow us to ask some questions if we have them. And what I'm interested in, and why I did it this way, in terms of structuring the agenda, where we have all 5 of them here, we have the questionnaires going out ahead of time, and the answers coming back, is to try to get a bigger picture, a global view of how they work in concert with one another. Because some of these things were created decades ago. For example, the Lake Soil and Water Conservation District was created in the 40s. Then the Water Authority, I think, was in the 50s, and then in the 70s, the St. John's and other water management districts were created. So they were not created all at the same time to work in concert with one another. They were created over time, layers, if you will. So I think it's important that we understand now where the jurisdictions are, how they overlap, and if there's gaps between them, and how we can make the whole system work better for Lake County. So we're going to begin with the St. John's River Water Management District, and I'm not sure if the chair is going to present. Mr. Chairman John Nicholas is here. Chairman, thank you for being here once again, and we're ready to begin your presentation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Just going to give you a brief overview of our role in Lake County and how we work with the other groups. The district really has 4 components to its core mission: water quality, water supply, natural systems, and flood protection. And in Lake County, we implement those missions in a couple of different ways. For several years, we worked with all of our partners in Lake County to improve and manage the water resources. We spent a lot of time as of late working on Lake Apopka and the upper Ocklawaha Basin. But we also work on regulation of lake levels, regulating development, regulating water use, and protecting groundwater supplies. Recently, last decade or so, we've invested about $250 million into Lake Apopka and the upper Ocklawaha Basin, specifically to improve the water resource. A lot of that money has resulted in significant pollutant load reduction from the old mud farms on the Apopka, Harris, Griffin, and on the Ocklawaha itself. We've also managed water supplies through the permitting process, water use monitoring, and water supply planning. And you heard some of that earlier with Tom and Central Florida Water Initiative, as well as some of the work with the South Lake Water Initiative. As Mr. Perry noted earlier, the district operates some water control structures in the county, particularly the pocket Eau Claire lock and dam, as well as the control structures in the Harris Bayou. In conjunction with that, we are currently working on development of the minimum flows and levels for the Pata and the Harris chain, as well as the lake level schedule for that. We're working with the Water Authority on those issues. We started that rulemaking process in December, so that is kind of the infancy, but we are working towards those currently. We've got good, productive working relationships with the other groups that we speak to. The Water Authority, we work with a lot on water resource improvements, particularly the Lake Pata and the Harris chain. The district has an agricultural assistance team, as well as providing regulatory technical assistance to Lake Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as local farmers in the area. We do quite a bit of work with Lake County government to provide input and review on comprehensive plans, as well as sector plans. The Lake South Lake sector plan is going through, is something the district's working on. Provided some support with the South Lake Regional Water Initiative, and we partner with the county and all the municipalities on a variety of water conservation programs. We partnered not that long ago with the county as well as the city of Leesburg on the $10 million Harris Bayou project, which is important flood control and management of the Harris Chain of Lakes. And we work regularly with the county as well as the Water Authority on the management of public lands and continuing to have and create new public recreational opportunities on those. Lastly, the Harris Chain of Lakes Restoration Council, we provide staff as well as technical assistance to the council. We work with them on their annual report to the legislature as well. District's primary source of funding is tied to ad valorem taxes. We do receive funding from state and federal sources. A lot of times those monies are specifically earmarked for certain projects or certain issues. We do generate some minor levels of funding internally through regulatory fees, as well as land leases, timber sales, etc. Over the past few years, we've consistently spent $6 to $8 million in Lake County. The bulk of that money has been tied to water resource protection associated with Lake Apopka and the Harris chain, also preparation of minimum flows and levels and the lake level schedules for those water bodies, and also water supply planning tied to CFWI and the South Lake Regional Water Initiative. That's kind of it in a nutshell. We provide those same levels of service for all the other 18 counties, central counties in the district, and we're happy to be part of the program and working with those other agencies and available for any questions you might have.
Okay, questions?
Thank you for your presentation. So the Leesburg portion of your business is $6 to $8 million that comes from ad valorem state and federal fees, leases, and timber. Is that correct? Did I understand that right?
The $6 to $8 million that the district spends in Lake County comes out of general fund primarily. It's earmarked out of our general fund, which the bulk of comes from ad valorem.
Okay.
That is the district's primary funding source.
And how many employees are dedicated to this Leesburg effort?
We're talking about a variety of projects. The North Shore Lake Apopka, the work with Lake County Water Authority on their new facility, ongoing management, land management, as well as regulatory efforts in terms of permit application review throughout Lake County, and work on the water initiatives. And I'm sure we have in excess of 100 different staff members touching it and working on different aspects of the county.
Okay, well, I mentioned early on that I'm not as familiar with water, so what I'm trying to understand is all these different groups that we have, so that everybody else is going to present is how much are we spending where we getting it and what are we getting accomplished? Because it looks like it might have some layers. And I noticed we got some subcontractors out there. I'm just trying to get a total price tag for the water issues that we have in the areas. That's why I asked the question.
Well, are you primarily concerned about water resource or water supply?
All the above. Any efforts being expended in Lake County, Sumter County?
Well, when you look across the different counties, I mean, the task force that Tom spoke of is like Florida Water in Southern Lake County. Billions of dollars have been spent on that process over the years. It started in the Central Florida Coordination Area, includes Orange, Polk, Osceola, Seminole, portion of Lake. A lot of money being spent on the South Florida, or excuse me, South Lake Regional Water Initiative. But just in last year, the district expended about $6.2 million on those projects in Lake County, tied to water supply, tied to water resource protection with Lake Apopka and the Harris Chain. And those efforts continue and will continue